English sing-sing. Fairy tale.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, when white snow was falling, a princess as white as snow was born. Her name was Snow White. Sadly, her mother, the queen, died of an illness soon after. Her father, the king, got married again. The new queen was pretty but wicked. She was a witch. She asked the magic mirror every day, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" And the mirror always replied,
"My queen, you are the fairest."
But one day, the mirror answered that Snow White was the fairest of the kingdom. Jealous and angry, the queen ordered a hunter to kill Snow White. However, the hunter couldn't kill Snow White, so he left her in the forest. While wandering around, Snow White found a small house with 7 chairs, 7 plates, 7 beds, and so on. It was the 7 dwarfs' cottage. When the dwarfs returned home, they were surprised to find Snow White. But they decided to let her stay. Meanwhile, the queen found out where Snow White was living. The queen disguised herself as an old woman selling apples. She came to Snow White and gave her a poisoned apple. As soon as Snow White bit into the apple, she fainted. The dwarfs were so sad. They thought she was dead and put her in a glass coffin. One day, a handsome prince was passing through the forest and saw Snow White in the coffin. He leaned down and kissed her on the forehead. At that moment, she opened her eyes. The 7 dwarfs called out,
"Hooray!"
Everyone was happy. The prince took Snow White to his palace, and they lived happily ever after.
Fairy tale.
Cinderella. Once upon a time, there lived a pretty girl named Cinderella. When she was young, her mother died. Her father remarried a pretty but bad woman. She brought 2 of her daughters into the family. Her stepmother and stepsisters treated Cinderella like a maid. Cinderella had to do all the housework. She only wore dirty clothes. One day, the prince's birthday invitation came. A ball was to be held in the castle. The stepmother and stepsisters dressed up and went to the ball. Left alone at home, Cinderella cried. Suddenly, her fairy godmother appeared. She turned a pumpkin into a carriage, rats into horses, and a lizard into a driver. She also dressed Cinderella in a beautiful dress. Lastly, she gave her glass slippers. The fairy godmother told her to come back before 12 o'clock midnight. Cinderella went to the ball and danced with the prince. It was 12 o'clock midnight. Cinderella hurried down the stairs as one of her glass slippers fell off her foot. The prince found it, and his men searched from door to door for the owner of the glass slipper. Finally, it fit one girl. She was Cinderella. Cinderella and the prince got married and lived happily ever after.
Fairy tale.
The Little Mermaid. There once lived a king of the Sea Kingdom. He had 6 daughters, all beautiful mermaids. Princess Ariel, the youngest daughter, was very curious. When Ariel was 15 years old, she went up to the surface of the water. She saw a handsome young prince standing on the deck of a ship. She fell in love with him. One stormy night, the young prince fell off the ship. Ariel saved his life. But he didn't know that. Back home, Ariel missed him a lot. But there was no way for a mermaid to love a human. She went to the witch and begged for help. The witch gave Ariel human legs, but Ariel had to give up her voice. Moreover, Ariel would become bubbles if the prince married another woman. She came back up on land as a beautiful human girl. She was found by the prince and invited to the palace. But the prince was going to marry the princess of a neighboring country. Ariel was very sad, but couldn't say anything. The night before the wedding, Ariel's mermaid sisters appeared. They gave her a knife, telling her to kill the prince. Ariel went into the prince's room with the knife, but she couldn't kill him. She turned into bubbles. This was the sad love story of a mermaid who loved a prince.
Fairy tale.
The Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time, a king and queen gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. They invited the people and fairies from all over the kingdom to celebrate their baby's birth. The fairies gave their blessings and precious gifts to the baby princess. The first fairy said, "You shall be the most beautiful in the kingdom." The second one said, "You shall be the wisest in the kingdom." The third one said, "You shall be the most warm-hearted in the kingdom." When the fourth fairy, was about to give her blessing, an evil fairy entered the room and said, "Ha! It's me, the most powerful fairy in your kingdom. How dare you don't invite me to your party?" She then cursed the princess. On the princess's 16th birthday, she will prick her finger on a spinning wheel and die forever. After saying these words, the evil fairy left the room. When the king and queen were in despair, the fourth fairy said, "Oh, I cannot break the curse, but I can help. When the princess pricks her finger on the spinning wheel, she will not die, but fall into a deep sleep. This curse may only be broken by a true love's kiss." The king was so afraid of losing his daughter. So he ordered his servants to destroy every spinning wheel in the kingdom. Time passed by, and the princess's 16th birthday came. When she was wandering around the castle, she found an old tall tower and went inside with curiosity. There, she found an old lady spinning a spinning wheel. "What are you doing?" "I'm spinning beautiful clothes. Do you want to try?" When the princess reached out her finger to try, ouch! She pricked her finger on the sharp needle. She immediately fell into a deep, deep sleep. The whole kingdom was filled with grief. The fourth fairy thought that she should make the entire kingdom fall into a deep sleep with the princess. "Close your eyes, my king and queen. Close your eyes, my loving people, for you shall sleep and wait for the princess's true love." All the people in the kingdom fell into a deep sleep. A forest started growing in the castle, and everything was covered by trees and thorn bushes. After many years, a prince was passing through the forest. He saw the princess lying in the forest and fell in love. He gently kissed her on the lips. At that moment, the curse was broken. The princess and all the kingdom woke up from their long sleep. The prince and princess were married and lived happily ever after. Beauty and the Beast. Once upon a time, there lived a kind girl named Belle who lived with her father. One day, Belle's father asked Belle,
"Belle, what should I bring back from work?"
She said, "Just a single rose." On his way home, Belle's father met a serious storm and landed near a castle. He went in and ate all the delicious foods on the table. He went outside once the storm stopped. In the garden, he saw a beautiful rose and picked it out. Just then, the beast appeared.
Who's taking my precious rose? Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. It's for my daughter. If you want to live, bring that daughter.
Belle's father came home and told Belle what happened. Belle had no choice but to go to the castle alone. Belle was scared of the beast at first. But as time passed by, she started to sense his warm heart. He gave her everything she needed: delicious food, many books, and beautiful flowers. They started falling in love. However, little by little, Belle started missing her father. Beast allowed her to visit him one time. At home, Belle had such a great time with her father. After realizing that she stayed home for too long, Belle went back to see Beast. There, she saw Beast passed out on the ground. Regretting not coming earlier, Belle shed tears of love. At that moment, Beast disappeared and suddenly a very handsome prince appeared. The prince told Belle that he was put on a spell that could only be broken by true love. Belle and the prince got married and lived happily ever after. Rapunzel. Once upon a time, there lived a poor husband and wife. The wife got pregnant, but they had nothing to eat. So the husband went to a nearby garden to steal some vegetables. He stole some vegetables from a garden. At that moment, an evil witch appeared.
Who's taking my precious vegetables?
The frightened man asked for forgiveness. The witch said,
In return for food, you must give me the baby when it's born.
When the wife had a beautiful baby girl, the witch took her away. She named her Rapunzel. Rapunzel grew up to be a beautiful girl with long blonde hair. The witch locked Rapunzel in a very tall castle tower. Whenever the witch visited the castle, she shouted,
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair.
Then she could climb up the tower using the hair as a rope. One day, as a prince was passing by the tower, he heard a beautiful voice singing a sad melody. While he was wandering in curiosity, he saw the witch go up. So he did the same. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Reaching the top, the prince was surprised to find a beautiful girl. The two fell in love at first sight. Rapunzel wanted to escape from the castle and marry the prince. But soon, the witch found everything out. Angered, she cut Rapunzel's long hair and sent her far away. Not knowing this, the prince came to the castle again. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. But it was the witch who was waiting for him. When he was almost at the top, she let go of the hair. The prince fell down into a thorn bush and hurt his eyes. He became blind and wandered around the forest, looking for Rapunzel. Finally, they found each other. She shed tears in the prince's eyes. Miraculously, the prince was able to see again. The prince took Rapunzel to his castle and married her. Thumbelina. Once upon a time, there lived a kind-hearted woman with no children. She always wanted to have a beautiful child. One day, a fairy appeared in front of the woman. The fairy handed her a seed, saying, "Something special will happen if you plant this seed." She took great care of the seed, and after some time, a flower bloomed. And surprisingly, inside the flower sat a pretty little girl as small as a thumb. "Oh, my wish came true. You're my precious little child. I will call you Thumbelina." The woman made a cozy bed with a walnut shell and a blanket with a flower petal. But one night, a toad came through the open window and kidnapped Thumbelina.
You're so pretty. I want you to be my son's wife.
The toad placed Thumbelina on a lotus leaf. But Thumbelina didn't want to be the bride of the ugly toad. When Thumbelina was crying, some fishes nibbled the lotus stem and freed her. Thumbelina stepped onto land, and soon a beetle found her. The beetle took her to his friends.
You look so weird.
Yeah. Why do you have 2 legs and no wings?
The beetles left her alone in the forest. When winter came, she wandered through the forest and came upon a field mouse's house. After a while, the field mouse introduced a mole to Thumbelina and told her to marry him. Thumbelina didn't want to marry a mole and spend a whole life in the dark. She was crying helplessly outside the house. Then she found a bird that had been hurt and lying in the cold. She took great care of it.
Oh, thanks. You're such a kind girl,
the bird said. Soon the bird recovered and flew to the warm south with Thumbelina on her wings. They landed on a beautiful field where all kinds of flowers bloomed in warm sunlight. There, Thumbelina saw a prince that was as small as her.
I think we are a match made in heaven. Would you marry me?
They got married in the beautiful field and lived happily ever after.
Fairy tale.
The Frog Prince. Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful princess. On the princess's birthday, she received a golden ball from her father. She liked the ball so much that she always played with it. One day, she dropped it into a well by accident. She was so sad that she burst out crying. Suddenly, a frog showed up out of nowhere and said,
"Don't cry, princess. I'll get it out for you. In return, you have to be friends with me. Eat and sleep together with me."
The princess agreed because she wanted to get the golden ball back as soon as possible. So, the frog got the golden ball from the bottom of the deep well. The princess was delighted and ran back to the palace with the ball. The next day, the frog came to the palace and said,
"Princess, let me eat with you. You promised."
The princess turned away, but her father scolded her. "If you've made a promise, you must keep it." Unwillingly, the princess ate and played with the frog. At night, the frog jumped into the princess's bed.
"Please, kiss me goodnight."
The princess hated it, but she kissed the frog's cold, damp cheeks.
I can't stand it any longer.
She threw the frog off the bed. At that moment, a handsome prince appeared out of nowhere. "I am the prince of the neighboring country. I became a frog by an evil witch's spell. Thanks to you, the spell has been broken. Will you marry me?" The princess felt sorry for what she had done, but nodded shyly. They got married and lived happily ever after.
The Wild Swans. Long time ago, in a kingdom lived a beautiful princess named Elisa and 11 handsome princes. They were happy until the king got married to a stepmother. She was actually an evil witch. She hated Elisa and the princes. With her magic spell, the princes turned into wild swans. Elisa was also kicked out. Elisa saw 11 wild swans flying in the sky. When the sun started to set, they turned back into the princes. The next morning, they were swans again. They made a large net and carried Elisa to the forest. When she was asleep, dreaming, a goddess appeared and said,
If you want to break the magic spell, make 11 sets of clothes out of nettles. Then, dress the swans one by one. But if you say a word before you finish, your brothers will die.
Elisa started to make the clothes for her brothers. Though the nettles hurt her fingers to bleed, she never took a rest. One day, a neighboring king saw Elisa in the forest and fell in love. He took her to his palace. Even in the palace, Elisa was busy weaving her brother's clothes while not saying a word. The archbishop of the country suspected Elisa as a witch, but the king did not listen. One night, when the nettles ran out, Elisa went to the cemetery to pick them up. The archbishop of the country saw it all and became sure that she was a witch. The king couldn't help but agree to put her to death. Elisa couldn't say any words and only concentrated on her work. On the morning of the execution day, her work came near to close. At the last moment, 11 swans appeared from the other side. Finally, Elisa finished 11 sets of nettle clothes. As soon as she threw them to the swans turned into human princes. The king and Elisa got married, and with them, the 11 princes lived happily ever after.
Princess and the Pea. Once upon a time, there was a prince who wanted to marry a real princess. But he could not find a real princess. One stormy night, a knock was heard at the castle gate.
Please, let me in. I'm a princess, and I need a place to sleep.
The prince saw her and fell in love. He asked the queen if he can marry her. But the queen didn't believe that she was really a princess. Well, I have a good idea. She laid a small pea on the bed and piled up 10 soft mattresses on top. That night, the girl slept on the bed. When morning came, The queen asked her how she had slept.
Thank you for your kindness, but I couldn't sleep at all because there was something very hard on my bed. Ouch! My back!
Oh, darling, you are a real princess. So the prince married the princess, and they lived happily ever after.